Hey, this is Taylor with Believe in the Run, and I'm here with an exciting new addition to the trail racing world. This is the Hoka Rocket X Trail. I've had this one all summer, and this particular pair, it looks pretty good, especially for the miles that I put in. I got it just before we went to Western States. I ran on some of that California carpet there, and a beer mile. I mean, these were clutch in that scenario. Also, obviously, here in the Rockies, I've been putting some miles in. Even got to the Midwest with it for some real nice long distance gravel miles, and getting on some of that black dirt single track. So good. And I even brought these to Chamonix and got on some of those real steep, quite technical trails in wet conditions. And so these have literally been around the world, and they look pretty good, don't they? I think so, and that's just part of the reason why I'm really impressed with this brand new trail offering. And so a little bit of backstory on it. This actually came by order of Jim Walmsley, the GOAT himself. He really liked how the Rocket X felt on the roads. He likes the cushion, the energy return, some snappiness, and he wanted that similar feeling for the trail. And what they came up with was, of course, the Rocket X Trail. Makes sense, but it's not exactly a one-for-one, and we should be thankful for that, of course, because they came up with something pretty spectacular. Really, the only thing that's similar between that Rocket X on the road and the Rocket X Trail is some of the geometries that we'll find in the midsole. The rest of it, of course, we have a more technical upper, a different midsole foam, a different shape of carbon plate, and I guess that is a true carbon plate in there, so that is similar. But for the most part, if you've been familiar with the Rocket X Trail or even love to run in it, this might be a really nice option to cross over to the trail and trail racing with. And so just putting that out there right away. Or if you just like that super shoot feel, this is going to be one of the closest options to it. And so I'm putting all that out there to say that yes, this is the Rocket X Trail. Yes, it is slated to be a gravel runner. We used to call that road to trail, just something that's going to do really well on the less technical side of trail running. This shoe in particular was made for a Western States style race in mind, so ultra distance, smoother, where you can really let your legs fly. And while it is going to work best for that, again, we'll get to all those specs and my thoughts and feelings around it here soon. But my prevailing thought is that I think Hoka is actually underselling this. Not in terms of price. $250 is plenty. That's right there with all the other racing day options. But I think they're underselling it and just calling it a gravel shoe. I mean, that's the category they're putting it in. Of course, racing, but gravel. In my experience, going all around the world with this can do a little bit more, and let's just get into it, and I'll tell you why. A big part of that is because of this upper and the whole construction of it. The upper material is really nice. It's a really technical engineered mesh. The standard in the industry that we would see on like the Tectonics 3, for example, is matrix. This is very matrix-like. It's a similar just technical fiber, and what we're going to notice is that it's just a single layer. It actually has a ton of different little perforations when you get to look closely at it, so it's quite breathable in those hotter, drier climates. It's going to do just fine, which is typically a concern for some of those technical mesh uppers. This one did pretty well with that. Another thing is that it is a single layer, but they really utilized a really nice web. You can see some of these more yellow cage-like features. They used a nice web of interlays to really have a nice lockdown on the foot without trying too hard. These race day laces, of course, help with that, and I'll get to some of that here soon, but I was really impressed with the overall fit and how it was shaped around the foot. In the forefoot, it is a little more generous than you would expect, especially if you're coming to this shoe from something like the Mafate Speed 4 or the Hoka Speed Goat or many other trail runners that have a slightly narrower fit in the forefoot for overall foot security. This is more of that ultra distance, minded shoe like the Mafate X or the Mafate 5 that is going to be broader in that forefoot. And that's just going to be more accommodating for many different types of runners and your foot swelling the longer you go. What I did find that will be a concern for some of you is that it felt like it was stumpy. I've never had that issue with a Hoka shoe. I'm usually a US men's 10.5, and that's all I need for race day, ultras, anything. For this particular shoe, I did do some quite long runs in it, 3 to 4 hours, getting in those 25 and plus mile runs on some of those. And that was about the time where I was feeling like, okay, I could use a little extra length here. I don't know how much that will change the overall fit because I really like the overall fit everywhere else. But again, felt stumpy is the word that I'm feeling. I'll still use these for some long runs, some workouts, whatnot. But once I bump up to the ultra distance race, like we're hoping to run JFK 50 this year, and I want to be able to use this shoe, I'm going to go up to a US men's 11 for that, just to have a little extra room in the toe box. What I'm really excited about with this upper is that Hoka is really committed to having structure and padding in the heel. You're probably annoyed with me saying that throughout this whole year because there's so many racers and even just general trail runners that have a really flimsy heel collar and heel counter construction. This is not one of those. This is an exception to that it really allowed for me to kind of pull my foot back into this heel pocket and feel really secure on a lot of different terrain. And again, it's meant for gravel scenarios or light trail, but this broader outsole, this quite wide fit that Hoka is known for, makes it more naturally stable. There is an H-shaped carbon plate in there, which also helps with that, but a big part of that in feeling secure and confident over more than just the gravel type scenarios is because of this fit, and especially because of this heel. It does have a racing style tongue, and for that, many people are pretty fed up with that around the industry, and it seems like everybody is trying to go minimal with the tongue as well. Hoka did here, but it actually works in this scenario. I didn't have any irritation. I'm also one to pull the laces through those upper eyelets, so my laces cross a little higher on the ankle, and I still didn't have any issues. I do always wear crew socks, so they are a little higher, a little more protected, but even so, on longer runs, I didn't have any issues here because this top is quite soft. Where I did have an issue with this tongue though, is that even though it is semi-gusseted on the inside, it bunched up quite a bit when I wanted to lace up this midfoot more securely. It did bunch up on either side. I personally didn't have any irritation, but I know that there's going to be someone who does. So if that's something that usually bothers you, you might want to look out on this one. Going down to the midsole. This is where the money is going to be made for this shoe, or it's going to cause you to look elsewhere because this is a super high stack. It's truly into that max stack category with a 42 millimeter heel and 36 millimeter forefoot. So a 6 millimeter drop. But what's really interesting is that this is a foam that we haven't really seen in any other shoes, or not many, I should say. Speedland's road shoe has this ATPU midsole. There's the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite Trail has an ATPU midsole, and their road shoe does too, but I can't think of any others that have an ATPU midsole, especially like this. One of the benefits to it, even the road shoe, the Rocket X3, has a PIBA based midsole. This one's ATPU based. And some of that benefit is that you do get some similar energy return. You get similar cushion, but this is going to be a little more dense and a whole lot more durable. And I get all of that feeling in this. It is truly cushioned. It's kind of in that medium soft, but it's not that sink in and then release like you would get with a PIBA foam like the Tecton X3. This is more of that bouncy feeling, kind of airy, light. Overall, this shoe, even though it does have that huge stack, it's still only 10 ounces of my size, 10 ounces flat. And so again, I really like the underfoot feel in large part because of this foam. It's just unique and fun. It wasn't quite as exciting as I was expecting, having run in some of those super shoes on the road where there's a really snappy highly energetic toe off. This has that to a degree, but what it has more than anything is efficiency. And we saw that in, like I talked about the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite Trail. Same case there. We talked about that in the Hoka Tecton X3, more efficient on Cloud Ultra Pro. We're figuring this out for trail running, ultra distance. That efficiency matters more than anything. And this is a really efficient shoe. Yes, it does have that curvature of the toe, kind of a later stage rocker. And that's one of the things that Jim Walmsley really loved, is that once you finally do hit that toe, and what I mean by later stage is that it's rockered a little more forward into the forefoot rather than pushed back toward that midfoot. Like many of the road shoes, this one's a little more forward, has a snappy feel, but the rest of it, the geometry of the rest of the shoe, is where this just really works so nicely with this foam, is that you can kind of see this curvature of that midsole on the bottom. And I felt this in, don't laugh at me, but I felt this in the Hoka 10.9. Do you remember that thing with the huge, basically a spoiler off the back? Yes, we did review that. And yes, I did actually like it for some scenarios, especially when you hit downhill segments or even uphill segments where you could catch in the midfoot or toward the heel, and it just so smoothly and nicely oriented you forward. And so that's what I felt mostly in the Rocket X Trail, just a really efficient, with an exciting toe off, highly cushioned, energetic underfoot ride. And again, stable because of that wider base, and stable and even more zippy because of that H-shape carbon plate inside. And so overall, running is just so fun in this. It just can run on a lot of different terrain, from smooth even into that moderately technical trail scenario where you're gonna have to be looking for rocks and roots here and there, not, constantly, but here and there. You can still run quite well and quite fast and efficiently in this particular shoe. And if we flip it over to the bottom, this is kind of the least impressive part of the Hoka Rocket X Trail, in that, this rubber and these lugs, they're 3.5 millimeter, which can do really well. It can transition between a lot of different terrain. And actually this rubber is quite tacky. All that's good, grips well. I like the lug shapes as well. Multi-directional, mostly of these triangular shapes, chevron style, works really well. But the durability, that's where this is gonna be kind of disappointing. This outsole is gonna be the thing that goes before anything else. Many trail shoes, the trail racing shoes, it's the midsole that goes before a lot of the other parts, but this one is definitely going to be the outsole. They're starting to shave off in this forefoot quite significantly. Again, because the rest of the shoe is quite durable, I wish they would have had a more durable option on the bottom. Grip and everything is actually surprisingly good. Again, even with the shallow lugs, obviously it's going to be limited with those muddy sections, but when we were in Chamonix, we had some pretty rainy days, and this gripped really well on some of those harder packed trails, even when they're wet. So take that for what it's worth. Overall, I've just had a lot of fun running miles in the Hoka Rocket X Trail. It's one of those shoes that I'm gonna routinely pick up for workout days, for some long runs that are, again, more along the lines of those smoother trails. This doesn't work all that well in the more technical scenarios, especially if you're prone to rolling your ankles. While I said this is super stable, otherwise, when it goes, it goes. It's like a tree falling. I caught an edge just last week and really rolled that ankle that I'm still feeling. So if that's a concern for you, that's really my biggest concern for this shoe. But again, I think it's stable enough, and you get a secure enough fit in the upper that you can pretty confidently run a lot of different trails. Starting to sound like a noisy gong. So let's just get into the overall score, pigeon score for the Hoka Rocket X Trail. Like I've said, I mean, the ingredients used in this shoe make for a unique experience in the trail running game. I think this feels fun and feels good, and the way they chose to go about it, not just making it a 1-for-1 over from the roads, which probably could have been an okay option, but this was much better in this formula. So form, I'm going 5. On fit though, again, I've talked about how secure you can make this upper, and it's actually a game changer for what Hoka says this is for. I think it's more versatile because of the fit, but because of some of those issues like the stumpiness and the potential of this tongue kind of folding up and causing some weird things to happen, I'm gonna say a 3 is my score for fit. I really like it for my foot, but there's bound to be some issues the longer you go in it. And for function, because they deem this as a light trail or gravel racer, I'm throwing this up there as a 5. Again, it can extend beyond that. You can even run it on the road. I would gladly run a road marathon in this. It's just, again, efficient, functional, fun. I feel like I should just find all these F words to throw at it. But overall, man, fantastic Hoka Rocket X Trail. I'm loving it. Sometimes I fail to mention who I think this would be best for. And obviously this is gonna be best for those trail runners or ultra runners who are racing on more of the moderated, less technical trails. And also those runners who are going to be able to keep that running gait for most of their run. It's just a really efficient, especially as you're running. Hiking, it's kind of meh, but as a running shoe, this is gonna feel really good. For those of you who maybe run roads more often and want a familiar feel for a race day shoe on the trails, this would be a great option too. So, and for those of you who just want a fun, fast shoe, boom, Hoka Rocket X Trail. Thanks for tuning into this review. If you want more, go check out our YouTube. We have so many more reviews, including some of the other shoes that we talked about in this review. Also go over to Strava and Instagram, where you can get a lot of hot takes on what's going on the website for Believe in the Run, where you can find all of these reviews written and so much more. Also check out the podcast that we have at least 3 times a week, with one on Monday with a guest, Fuel for the Soul, and with the core crew on Fridays, The Drop. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.